Now, this video is no disrespect to the Metacritic scores of video games out there and people who do all this. I know that they work very hard on it, but there's no way that I'm going to trust or fully say, okay, I'm all right with scores of tactics games going forward in the future, because it's clear that there is a little bit of an issue now that I've played a number of hours of Fire Emblem Engage on the Nintendo Switch. And we're going to kind of go back to last year's game that I felt was really good, and that is Triangle Strategy, one of my top games of 2022, and comparing it when it comes to these three Nintendo Switch strategy RPGs. Triangle Strategy, also Fire Emblem Engage, and Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Now, if you're looking at this, two of these games have multiple points underneath Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, and that is Triangle Strategy and also Fire Emblem Engage. You've got an 83 and an 82 respectively on the Nintendo Switch, with an 86 with Mario plus Rabbids. And remember, guys, these are different reviewers, different time periods, different whatever when these were reviewed, right? Over the course of last year, beginning of the year, end of the year, then also early this year. So you can't sit there and say it's a one for one, like it's the same reviewers on every single one and they're comparing it head to head. That is not the case. But in no universe should Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope be rated multiple points higher as a strategy RPG than Triangle Strategy and Fire Emblem Engage. Now that I've put a number of hours into this game with Fire Emblem Engage, and I put over 100 hours into Triangle Strategy, and I've put over 25 hours plus into Mario plus Rabbids. And this is no knock on Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. I think the game is fantastic as a tactics game, but I don't find it more dynamic or better than either of these games, especially when you start stacking it up bit by bit and what these titles do. Overall, both, when it comes to Fire Emblem Engage and also Triangle Strategy, have better stories. When it comes to the characters, they have more in those games, more weapons, more sauce, more everything. But let's talk about Fire Emblem Engage, as it's the newer title. Now, I've been playing this game, like I said, over 7+ hours. I think I'm on chapter like 5 or 6. I've been doing a lot of the extra stuff. I'm playing the game on hard classic. So essentially, it's the second to highest difficulty level, but it's also the classic Fire Emblem style of gameplay, to where if your unit dies, they are done for the rest of the game in most situations. So it's definitely very nerve-wracking going through these levels and playing, because Fire Emblem is a game where you have to position yourself completely to the point to where you got to make sure that there are no holes at all, because they will exploit you on this difficulty level and you will be killed with many of your units, because some units just have terrible defense at the beginning of the game. So you really have to strategize, and you really have to make sure that you put your units in the best place for success. And I think that's where this game really just kind of takes it up to the notch. I feel that this game does things so much better than other tactics games, and it feels like the 30+ years of experience really shows with this game. But let's first get into some of the story stuff, and I'm not going to get into any spoilers with the story, but there's been conversation and discussion, and it's completely fine if you don't really like the story too much. As a longtime Fire Emblem fan, seeing all these different Emblem characters kind of come up into this game and say certain things that reference what happened to them in their games, it is a Fire Emblem fan's like dream, when it comes down to it. It's so cool to see what happens in these games and what's said based off of the different characters. So I really do enjoy that, and it's very straight up. And I know some people might not like that compared to Three Houses or Shadows of Valentia or some of the other games, but it's very straight up. You've got the bad enemy that you're going after. They clearly look that way. You're going and getting these emblem rings. It's pretty point A to point B with some diversions here and there with chapters, but for the most part, it's fantastic in terms of how they do things. The voice acting is good. The cutscenes are good as well. I'm actually impressed with what they've done here so far. So I think it's great in that. When it comes to the combat, I think this is where the game really excels before we get into some of the side stuff with this. But the combat in this game is the meat and potatoes. It's the core of what makes Fire Emblem great. And it's always going to be what makes Fire Emblem great. It's the combat. I love the depth. I love what they do with some of the normal conventions. The fact that the weapon triangle is back. And remember, the weapon triangle, it's not a must for every single Fire Emblem game. There are multiple games this side of like 2017 plus that have not had weapon triangles. So for example, Fire Emblem Three Houses and also Fire Emblem Echo Shadows of Link, they do not have weapon triangle. And I feel that when you do have the weapon triangle, it really brings a sense of balance and it brings a sense of skill to the gameplay that I feel is just better than not having it. Like, I get when they don't put it in there, and that's fine. I can play through the games. Three Houses doesn't have it, and they do different types of skills and stuff to exploit weaknesses. But I feel that the weapon triangle is the best way to really enjoy Fire Emblem when it comes to the combat and the depth. And in this game, they've knocked it out of the park. I love the break mechanic where the enemy won't counterattack, or yourself, you can get your weapon knocked out of your hand. That truly makes you master the weapon triangle and make sure that you put the best weapons to what your characters can have and make sure you can exploit that at the best times, because you're going to need, especially on the harder difficulties, to break enemies and make sure that you don't get broken yourself. So that depth with this game is just really, really good. And they continue to layer on that depth as you go on in the game, especially with some of the side stuff that we'll talk about. The combat mechanic with the emblem rings and being able to fuse together or have them as support is like a built-in Fire Emblem Awakening plus some. I really love what they've done here because it just creates a really cool battle atmosphere to where you can do some super powerful attacks, but at the same time isn't broken because it only lasts for a number of turns. And as a huge Fire Emblem fan, it's really dope to kind of fuse together with Marth and pull off these crazy cool looking combos, or have Celica and her magic just overpower the battlefield. So these are the type of things to me that just add that extra layer of fun, but also strategy to a game that already had a really tight strategy, RPG, mechanics, controls, battles, and everything. And it just kind of takes it to the next level that really I didn't expect it. I knew it was going to be really cool, but I didn't expect it to be as fun as it is, and how strategic it is putting it into the battles. It's not as something to where you can just sit there and overpower every single enemy with it. You really need to be strategic in terms of when and how you use the emblem and engage mechanics. So it's very well done here. Let's discuss a few other things here, because I think it's very cool to see what they've done with the UI, the user interface. Very well done. I love the pop-ups with your character, see how much HP they have, see what they currently have equipped. It's very easy to pick your character and move around, and the UI really just, I would say, moves that along so much quicker and faster than previous Fire Emblems. It feels snappy, it feels good to click through certain menus to get to where you need to get to. They give you safeguards, so just in case you don't accidentally press the attack, you have to press the button, a couple different times to get to where you need to get to, and it gives you options to move within that in terms of switching your weapon when you're about to attack and seeing exactly how much damage it can do based on the weapon that you pick. So I love that about the game, and I think that the animations are the best in series history by far. I thought that Three Houses had fantastic animations, but Fire Emblem Engage, the animations are very good in this game, much better. I love the twirling and spinning and just the way that they draw the bows and the way that the game looks in combination with everything else that we've talked about, and like the flare and like the lighting. Everything is smooth. This is the best that Fire Emblem's been, and that is awesome. I think that they really took their time and crafted that. So I do feel that all of that stuff, when you take the combat, you take the UI, you take the graphics, the animation, you kind of put it all together, it creates pretty much the ultimate tactics game for the Nintendo Switch right now in terms of new age games. Now, we're going to talk just a little bit about the Somniel and the base activities, because I feel that this is much better than maybe what some of the media was saying out there. I feel that the base and what you can do in there is fantastic. It's a nice mix of not being overbearing and having way too much, because I've unlocked multiple different things in the base, from like the blacksmith, also the tailor. You can change your different clothing and stuff like that. Like, I've unlocked so much different things. I've unlocked the amiibo stuff and different outfits, which are really cool to have in the game as well. If you've got certain amiibos, you can look like the legendary heroes of the past, so that's fun. Also unlocked the arena as well, doing some training in there, so that's also great. So I feel that everything they've put into the Somniel base is such a good balance to where you have between the chapters, you can go back to the Somniel base, you can go talk to your characters, do support, different type of stuff like that, and see really goofy cutscenes and all of that. Or you can go manage the battle and get ready for things. Now you can do that at any time beforehand, but it's easy to do that in the base and kind of go and explore, level up, look at your achievements. And I just feel like it flows a lot better and it's structured a lot better than Fire Emblem Three Houses with the calendar system and spending points. And then once you spend the points, then you have to stop and then it goes to the next day. And then you do it over and over till there's like some type of activity. And then at the end, there's a mission. So it just feels, in my opinion, like the type of game that I would want to play more in terms of structure-wise. Structure-wise, it just feels a lot better because I feel like I'm more in control and I don't have to go through leagues of things mandatory in order to get to the battle. Whereas this is like, okay, I can tackle this at my own leisure and not have to worry about days and points, and I can just do it. I can just go there and do that no problem, which is one of the reasons why I said that the structure of a game like Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes was better than Fire Emblem Three Houses, and that is the spin-off, of the game. And I thought the structure was better there because they allowed you to just play. They allowed you to just do what you want and play the game, and then they layer in all those things around it instead of forcing you through here's a calendar system and structure. But it makes sense for that game. So I'm not knocking it for having it. It makes sense for that game and what they wanted to tell with the story and everything. But for me, I personally like the structure of this game because it gets you to what you ultimately want to do, and that is the combat in the game. And once again, the combat is just so good. So there are some downsides to everything here in my first number of hours. Obviously, it would be nice, the graphics in the game are fantastic, but I feel that there's some blurriness with the character outfits, so obviously that could have been better. The backgrounds, obviously, are sometimes stagnant at times, but overall, I think that it still looks really good. I think that it's one of the better looking strategy RPGs or RPGs on the system, and I feel that Intelligent Systems has done a fantastic job in making a game that they can make and not worrying about making 15 different paths and all of this type of stuff. It's just a different style of Fire Emblem game. Now, this could cause a lot of issues. There can be people who don't like the game as much as other people when it comes to what Fire Emblem has done in the past, because people are so used to the super marriage options and the multiple different birthright, conquest, revelations. You have the blue lions, black eagles, all this golden deer. You have all these different path stuff, and getting a straight up kind of campy Fire Emblem story might not vibe with all Fire Emblem fans, or even some of the old school fans that are looking for maybe like a Shadows of Valentia or that type of twist, or Genealogy of the Holy War, that type of twist into their stories when it comes down to it. But I feel personally that this game really just kind of mends a lot of stuff from old and new Fire Emblem and kind of puts it together, then goes forward at a great pace and more of a structure that I feel is fantastic for newcomers that are going to play the game, but also people that just want to play a great tactics game. So if you don't know Fire Emblem, or if you want to get into it, this is a great first title, despite there being a bunch of characters from the years past and everything. And you might not know everything that's said because they reference their games. But at the end of the day, I think that the combat and how they ease you into it really, really shows that they cared about getting new players in, but also refining what Fire Emblem is and what this game does uniquely or individually from previous Fire Emblem games. And I don't think that should, going back to the reviews and the mainstream and all that, I don't think that should be held against it. I feel that I'm never really trusting mainstream stuff when it comes to scores. I bring it up just because it's relevant and it's good to have different opinions. And I know that it's just a basis. It's not the be all end all, guys. And I'm not saying that it is. I'm really not saying that it is. But as a longtime tactics fan, as a longtime RPG fan, there's no universe in terms of what I've been playing. There's no universe where a triangle strategy and also Fire Emblem Engage are multiple points underneath what Mario plus Rabbids is. I think that game, obviously it's great, but it's far more simplistic in nature. It doesn't quite offer everything that these games are offering, and these games might be penalized for offering a bit more and they don't necessarily want to go through that, compared to Mario plus Rabbids being far more clean cut and easier to get through when it comes to it. So I think that could be part of it. But either way, they're all great games. They're all fantastic. It's not a straight up one-to-one thing. I was just voicing my opinion on what I thought after playing all of these tactics games within about a year, because Triangle Strategy came out last year around, I think, March or so. Yeah, I think it was like a March game or like early. And also playing Mario plus Rabbids at the end of last year. And then now I'm playing Fire Emblem Engage. And I'm just thinking, whoa, wait a minute. How did this happen? But once again, it's not the be all end all. It doesn't mean that that game is bad. And if you like Mario plus Rabbids more than the other two games that I talked about, or if you feel that it's better, that's also fine too. I'm not here to say that my opinion's better than everybody else's or anything like that. But I'm going to continue playing Fire Emblem Engage. I am going to have a full, complete review for you guys when I'm done, but I'll also have some videos discussing some tips and tactics for advanced players and also for beginners, so make sure you look out for that. And also make sure you check out my other Fire Emblem Engage videos. I talked about the initial reviews and went and broke those down, so if you haven't seen that, make sure you check it out. And I also talked about some other things with Fire Emblem Engage that are very interesting when it comes to what's going on in the community and what people are saying back and forth. So both of those videos will be on the screen and also in the comment section. So thank you guys so much for watching today. I appreciate it, and we'll see you for the next one. Peace.